This is Fox 32 News Saturday.
And thank you for joining us tonight for this digital edition of Fox Chicago News Saturday. I'm Dane Placco. World reaction is pouring in tonight after the U.S. military captures Venezuela's president, and President Trump says the U.S. is now in charge of a foreign country. Tonight, Nicolas Maduro and his wife, First Lady Cilia Flores, arrived in New York City in handcuffs where they're being processed into a Brooklyn detention center, facing federal drugs and weapons charges. In a surprise operation by elite U.S. military forces, bombs rained on Venezuela overnight as 150 U.S. aircraft knocked out air defenses. U.S. troops broke into the presidential compound in Caracas and took Maduro and his wife into custody in an operation that lasted a little more than 2 hours. Maduro's vice president has been named the new leader, but she also called the military intervention a kidnapping. And President Trump says he will run the country until order is restored. This action being condemned by some world leaders tonight. All this following months of bombing of alleged Venezuelan drug boats and threats of U.S. action against Maduro, who's been in power since 2013. Rebecca Castor has more from Washington.
This was a mission that was months in the making, involving nearly every branch of the military, and U.S. forces pulled it off with no known U.S. casualties and a head of state in custody. After being flown to the U.S., the now ousted leader of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, taken by chopper to New York City Saturday evening, where as soon as Monday, he'll face federal drug trafficking and weapons charges. A quiet end to a dramatic day that began before dawn in Caracas when U.S. Special Forces captured him in a surprise raid.
It was dark. The lights of Caracas were largely turned off due to a certain expertise that we have. It was dark and it was deadly.
Maduro wasn't the only one surprised. So was Congress, also kept in the dark.
That's absolute BS. The president is very clear that he wants to occupy Venezuela. He wants to take the oil. Nothing in what they've said so far in their justification is the reason why they went to get Maduro.
Congress has a tendency to leak. This would not be good.
The president says this wasn't about regime change, but for the time being, he says the U.S. will run Venezuela and tap its vast oil reserves until a new leader takes over. But for many of those living in exile here in the U.S., it was a day of celebration.
I'm hoping for peace of all, for being able to celebrate with my family.
The UN Security Council plans to meet Monday to discuss Venezuela, while its Secretary General calls Trump's move a dangerous precedent. In Washington, Rebecca Castor, Fox Chicago.
The president's actions are drawing fire from Democratic political leaders here in Illinois. In a post on Facebook, Senator Dick Durbin writes, Nicolas Maduro repeatedly denied the will of the Venezuelan people, including when 2/3 of them voted for an end to decades of political and economic ruin and criminality. However, I disagree with President Trump's use of U.S. military force without congressional approval and worry deeply about this administration's follow-through on foreign policy interventions. The Trump administration must provide briefings for all members of Congress as soon as possible this week. Illinois Democratic Congressman Sean Casten issuing a statement saying, I strongly condemn President Trump's unlawful military action in Venezuela. Maduro is an illegitimate ruler, but the president cannot send U.S. forces into another country and seize its leader without congressional authorization. And Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker writing, Donald Trump's unconstitutional military action in Venezuela is putting our troops in harm's way with no long-term strategy. The American people deserve a president focused on making their lives more affordable. We're also getting reaction tonight from Chicago's Venezuelan community, who say they're glad to see Maduro gone, but worry about what's next. And we're hearing from people protesting President Trump's actions, who gathered downtown tonight on short notice.
Donald Trump, shame on you! Donald Trump, shame on you! No war, no peace!
Several hundred people filling Federal Plaza on a chilly Saturday evening for a snap protest called only hours earlier.
We see the wannabe dictator in open violation of international law and U.S. law, invading a sovereign country, kidnap their president, kidnap their first lady, and call this just. This is a criminal act and must be denounced.
The protesters held signs questioning the Trump administration's justification for the military action, saying it had more to do with oil than illegal drugs.
We all know the real reason behind these attacks, and it's U.S. access to oil. That's right. This warmongering and resource greed is a symptom of imperialism.
70% of people in the U.S. do not want this war. This statistic has been in the news for weeks. Yet our government sends bombs to Venezuela.
But the reaction in Chicago's large Venezuelan community is more nuanced.
We have been waiting for this moment for a long time.
Luciano Pedota is president of the Illinois-Venezuelan Alliance. He says most Venezuelans are happy to see Maduro gone, but worry about the country's transition, especially after President Trump signaled that Maduro's vice president will remain in power.
These are people who belong to the Chavismo, or the Castro Chavismo, I should say. And so we are not very fond of them in Venezuela. Venezuelan people don't really like. We want to see it over. We really want to see a transition of power.
Pedota says he's been in contact with friends and family in Venezuela, where most people are laying low, fearing the potential of political violence.
The order is to stay home, not to go out, not to protest, because we don't, I mean, there could be kind of like a civil war, or at the very least, there will be focus locations where there's going to be conflict.
And Pedota says Chicago's Venezuelan community has expanded rapidly over the past couple of years after Southern governors sent buses filled with migrants to northern cities. Stay with us for the very latest on the U.S. capture of the Venezuelan president and the resulting fallout. When we're not on the air, we'll bring you the latest information on our website, fox32chicago.com, and on the Fox Local app. Let's take a live look outside now on what has been a mostly cloudy and chilly day across the Chicago area. And it looks like a pattern that's going to stick around here for a little bit. Meteorologist Mark Stroll in the Weather Center now with his first check of the forecast.
Yeah, at least one more day. We have temperatures that are about normal for this time of year. And our temps this evening, not that bad. Not that far off of our daytime highs that we had earlier. We're doing 27 degrees at the lakefront, 27 degrees at Midway. There's been a little bit of light snowfall up around Green Bay, up across the state of Michigan, but we stay dry here. We should stay dry here for probably the next 24 hours. And then there is a small chance we could see a little mixed precip near the Wisconsin state line. When I say small chance, I'm talking about a 15 to 20% chance, so not a big deal. Winds, they're light, they're variable. Tell you more in a moment.
All right, we're going to cut off this digital newscast right now. We'll see you back on the air in just a couple minutes.
And the treatments are covered by most health insurance. Call today and schedule your free vein screening at one of our locations.
So what I'm wondering is,
Chicago. Live from Chicago, this is Fox 32 News Saturday.
And thank you for joining us this evening. I'm Dane Placco. World reaction is pouring in tonight after the U.S. military captures Venezuela's president, and President Trump says the U.S. is now in charge of a foreign country. Tonight, Nicolas Maduro and his wife, First Lady Cilia Flores, arrived in New York City in handcuffs, where they're being processed into a Brooklyn detention center facing federal drug and weapons charges. In a surprise operation by elite U.S. military forces, bombs rained on Venezuela overnight as 150 U.S. aircraft knocked out air defenses. U.S. troops broke into the presidential compound, took Maduro and his wife into custody in an operation that lasted a little more than 2 hours. Maduro's vice president has been named the new leader, but she also called it a kidnapping. And President Trump says he'll run the country until order is restored. That action is being condemned by some world leaders. All of this following months of bombings of alleged Venezuelan drug boats and threats of U.S. action against Maduro, who's been in power since 2013. Rebecca Castor has more from Washington.
This was a mission that was months in the making, involving nearly every branch of the military, and U.S. forces pulled it off with no known U.S. casualties and a head of state in custody. After being flown to the U.S., the now ousted leader of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, taken by chopper to New York City Saturday evening, where as soon as Monday, he'll face federal drug trafficking and weapons charges. A quiet end to a dramatic day that began before dawn in Caracas when U.S. Special Forces captured him in a surprise raid.
It was dark. The lights of Caracas were largely turned off due to a certain expertise that we have. It was dark, and it was deadly.
Maduro wasn't the only one surprised. So was Congress, also kept in the dark.
That's absolute BS. The president is very clear that he wants to occupy Venezuela. He wants to take the oil. Nothing in what they've said so far in their justification is the reason why they went to get Maduro.
Congress has a tendency to leak. This would not be good.
The president says this wasn't about regime change, but for the time being, he says the U.S. will run Venezuela and tap its vast oil reserves until a new leader takes over. But for many of those living in exile here in the U.S., it was a day of celebration.
I'm hoping for peace of all, for being able to celebrate with my family.
The UN Security Council plans to meet Monday to discuss Venezuela, while its Secretary General calls Trump's move a dangerous precedent. In Washington, Rebecca Castor, Fox Chicago.
The president's actions are drawing fire from Democratic political leaders here in Illinois. In a post on Facebook, Senator Dick Durbin writes, Nicolas Maduro repeatedly denied the will of the Venezuelan people, including when 2/3 of them voted for an end to decades of political and economic ruin and criminality. However, I disagree with President Trump's use of U.S. military forces without congressional approval and worry deeply about this administration's follow-through on foreign policy interventions. The Trump administration must must provide briefings for all members of Congress as soon as possible this week. Illinois Democratic Congressman Sean Casten issuing a statement saying, "I strongly condemn President Trump's unlawful military action in Venezuela. Maduro is an illegitimate ruler, but the president cannot send U.S. forces into another country and seize its leader without congressional authorization." And Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker writing, "Donald Trump's unconstitutional military action in Venezuela is putting our troops in harm's way with no long-term strategy. The American people deserve a president focused on making their lives more affordable." We're also getting reaction tonight from Chicago's Venezuelan community who say they're glad to see Maduro gone, but worry about what's next. And we're hearing from people protesting President Trump's actions who gathered downtown tonight on very short notice.
Donald Trump, shame on you! Donald Trump, shame on you! No war, no proof!
Several hundred people filling Federal Plaza on a chilly Saturday evening for a snap protest called only hours earlier.
We see the wannabe dictator in open violation of international law and U.S. law, invading a sovereign country, kidnap their president, kidnap their first lady, and call this just. This is a criminal act and must be denounced.
The protesters held signs questioning the Trump administration's justification for the military action, saying it had more to do with oil than illegal drugs.
We all know the real reason behind these attacks, and it's U.S. access to oil. That's right. This warmongering and resource greed is a symptom of imperialism.
70% of people in the U.S. do not want this war. This statistic has been in the news for weeks, yet our government sends bombs to Venezuela.
But the reaction in Chicago's large Venezuelan community is more nuanced.
We have been waiting for this moment for a long time.
Luciano Pedota is president of the Illinois Venezuelan Alliance. He says most Venezuelans are happy to see Maduro gone, but worry about the country's transition, especially after President Trump signaled that Maduro's vice president will remain in power.
These are people who belong to the Chavismo, or the Castro Chavismo, I should say. And so we are not very fond of them in Venezuela. Venezuelan people don't really like. We want to see it over. We really want to see a transition of power.
Pedota says he's been in contact with friends and family in Venezuela, where most people are laying low, fearing the potential of political violence.
The order is to stay home, not to go out, not to protest, because we don't, I mean, there could be kind of like a civil war, or at the very least, there will be focus locations where there's going to be conflict.
Pedota also says that Chicago's Venezuelan community has expanded rapidly over the past couple years after southern governors sent buses filled with migrants to northern cities. Stay with us for the very latest on the U.S. capture of Venezuela's president and the resulting fallout. When we're not on the air, we'll bring you the very latest information on our website, fox32chicago.com, also on the Fox local app. All right, let's take a live look outside now on what has been a mostly cloudy and chilly day across the Chicago area, and it looks like a pattern that is going to stick around a bit. Meteorologist Mark Strell now in the Weather Center with his first check of the forecast.
That's right. We've got one more day of more of the same before a big warm-up moves into Chicago coming up next week. Tomorrow we're going to be equally as cloudy, although I think we'll start out the early morning hours with a peak of sunshine because we will have clear skies later on this evening. Here's how temps look right now. We are in the mid and upper 20s, 27 degrees right now in Midway, a 30 holding out at Joliet, 30 at Kankakee. But as soon as our clouds clear out, we'll see those numbers dip back down into the teens overnight tonight. There's a little bit of light snowfall, Green Bay, back to around Detroit, western upstate New York seeing a little bit of snowfall as well. We miss out on that right now, but there's a tiny chance there could be a little wintry mix across northern Illinois, specifically right along the Wisconsin state line coming up late tomorrow. I'll tell you more about that coming up in a moment.
Thank you,
Winds, well, they're pretty light here at the moment, and they should continue that way throughout the night and tomorrow as well.
All right, thank you, Mark. Well, the Bears are getting ready to wrap up the regular season, and they take on the Lions in the finale tomorrow. There's a lot riding on this game, as we know, when it comes to the Bears' playoff position, and Tina Wynn is here now with a preview. Tina, who would have thought the Bears would even be in this position at the beginning of the year?
Yeah, Dane, we are less than 24 hours away from the finale of a regular season that few could have predicted. Double-digit wins, an NFC North title, and a chance to clinch the #2 seed. And the turning point of the season may have been early as Week 2 against the team they are facing tomorrow. The Lions handed the Bears a 52-21 loss in Detroit, 3 points shy of a Lions franchise record, 3 shy of the most points ever allowed by the Bears. Since then, the Bears have gone 11-3, and while they seemed to be like the same old Bears at the time, Ben Johnson, well, he had some other ideas.
The message after that game was how much we as a coaching staff believed in the guys in that room. We knew it was a talented bunch, and it doesn't take a whole lot to get a few things corrected and turn this ship the other way. And so that's what they did. I do think it's a great lesson to be learned. You know, you don't jump to conclusions too early. You just keep putting your head down and going back to work and keep chopping away, and hopefully the results come.
Well, the Bears will have a chance to show the Lions how much they've changed since Week 2. A win or an Eagles loss means they will clinch the #2 seed. We'll have much more on the Bears later in sports. Dane?
All right, thank you much. Much more ahead on Fox Chicago Saturday, including a confrontation at a Chicago police station. The family of a man killed by police a year ago continuing to question that shooting. A touching tribute by officers as they say goodbye to a longtime leader of the Chicago Police Department. And a 130-year-old CTA station right in the heart of the Loop is about to greet its final train. We'll tell you why it's closing next.
At Postman Law, we fight for everyday people.
The Chicago Police Department was hit with a tragedy today. Deputy Chief William Betancourt has died following what the department calls a medical emergency. Chicago police say he was off duty at that time. Betancourt served in the department for nearly 30 years. He started with CPD back in 1996. And there was a touching tribute for Betancourt this morning. Video captured a large procession of CPD vehicles as his body was taken to the Cook County Medical Examiner's office. CPD releasing a statement after his death, which says in part, quote, Deputy Chief Betancourt embodied what it meant to be a public servant and a great leader throughout his career at the Chicago Police Department. He will be deeply missed by his brothers and sisters at the CPD. We ask the residents of Chicago to keep the Betancourt family in their prayers during this difficult time. A protest outside the 10th District Chicago Police Station got heated, as you see there, as family members of a man shot and killed by police last year confronted officers. On January 3rd of last year, 2 Chicago police officers shot 57-year-old Timothy Glaze 16 times. That shooting happened inside a Little Village apartment building when Glaze walked towards officers while holding a knife. All of this captured on police body cams.
Chicago Police. Yeah. What's going on? Nothing.
The family is angry that the 2 officers who shot Glaze have returned to duty. They believe the officers used excessive force, but policing experts say officers are trained to use lethal force when a suspect is coming at them with a knife. The Civilian Office of Police Accountability has not yet completed its investigation. There's been an arrest in the deadly shooting of 2 people in south suburban Ford Heights last summer. 31-year-old Detrion Anderson has been charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder after he was arrested on New Year's Day. Police say Anderson shot the 2 men on the morning of July 5th in the 1400 block of Regent Lane in Ford Heights. A 3rd man was also shot, but he recovered after being treated. Well, Monday morning is going to feel a little different for thousands of Chicago commuters. A century-old CTA station right in the heart of the Loop will close for the next 3 years. Roseanne Tellez has more on that.
This elevated station is 130 years old and showing her age. It's one of the busiest and oldest CTA stations in the city, and plenty of CTA riders would tell you it's time for a makeover. Starting Monday, it shuts down completely. Loop trains will still be operating, but riders need to use the Washington, Wabash, and Clark and Lake stations, which are fully accessible. The Lake Red Line subway station remains open so that you can transfer. As for nearby streets, intermittent closures started in December. Those will continue. Starting Monday, Lake Street will be local traffic only between Dearborn and Wabash. Bus stops will stay open on State Street, but pedestrians do need to look out for those detour signs throughout construction. And of course, be careful with all the heavy equipment around. Upgrades, though, include making the station more accessible, safer, and a better experience. So you can look for new elevators, a glass canopy for weather protection, better lighting, and wider platforms when the project is finished. When is that? Well, it won't be till 2029. How are you feeling?
Honestly, I have to walk like 1 more block, which is kind of annoying. But yeah. I wouldn't say nervous, but it is kind of annoying that I have to walk 1 more block.
I'm looking forward for a newer station. Yeah, and I think it will be good for the transportation, and it will be more cleaner and more modern and convenient for us when it gets done. And I will be delighted to see if it's, the construction is done ahead of the schedule.
Right.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, fingers crossed, and Happy New Year.
They are trying to make it a little easier for all of you commuters in the morning by doing the bulk of the demolition between 9 p.m. and 5 a.m. Again, big changes here at State and Lake at the CTA station starting Monday. In the Loop, Roseanne Tellez, Fox Chicago.
Gonna miss that old station, Mark. Such a classic part of downtown Chicago. Although that big roof looks kind of nice for the weather. Huh?
Looks kind of cool. They're adding a big roof, more space, and elevators. And that's only going to take 3 years.
I wonder if they only 3 years.
Only 3.
I wonder if they're going to put some heaters in there, because standing up on that platform many a time, I can tell you, especially on nights like this.
I would be all for it, my friend. Well, fortunately for us, winds are not that vigorous, so our actual air temperature in the teens and 20s, wind chills now in the teens and 20s. Our winds about 5-6 miles per hour, so no big deal there, but it is still chilly tonight. And if you're looking for warmer temperatures, we've got this for next week. We've got a map that is in the deep red, which means our temperatures are going to trend well above average coming up over the next 6 to 10 days. And that means that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, all in the 40s this week. And I'm talking about 40s that are in the mid and upper 40s. So these temperatures at times more than 15 degrees above average for this time of year. Overnight tonight, still cool. We've got temperatures that will be falling down into the teens. We show 20 degrees at 8 o'clock in the morning, but I think we briefly touch on 18, 19 degrees, especially if you get outside of the city. That shouldn't be an issue at all. And here's that look at that warm up. Look at this. Temperatures all the way up to around 50 degrees by next Friday. I think we will see some cities in the 50s, at least 50 coming up in the next 7 days. And even beyond that, our temperatures stay above average. So our early part of January is going to continue to stay mild. Futurecast shows we are clearing the skies out overnight tonight. We will see clear skies from the clouds that we've had most of the day. Weak little disturbance right here tomorrow afternoon, mostly to the north of the Wisconsin state line area, but a little bit of that wintry mix could clip parts of McHenry and Lake County. We'll keep an eye on that. Right now, we'll rate that risk at about a 15 to 20% chance, so not a huge deal, pretty isolated and pretty quickly pushing through the area. And we see more of the same coming up Monday as we look up to the north, so we're not the only ones warming up, even warm temperatures all the way across central Wisconsin as well. Satellite and radar, not a whole lot happening here this evening. Most of this not even touching the ground. It's just some moisture in the upper part of the atmosphere. We've got a warm-up coming, but not tomorrow. We'll talk to you about what we can expect during the daytime hours coming up tomorrow, coming up in just a few minutes.
Months since a man from the south suburbs was last seen, and now police have released new video showing him after he was involved in a crash. We're going to hear from that man's family. Plus, health experts share some tips to help you stick with those tough New Year's resolutions. Stay with us.
Are you struggling with pain, swelling?
Hey everyone, I'm Tina Nguyen with your Portillo Sports Minute. It always sounds good. Taking a look at your NFL playoff picture heading into the final week of the regular season. A Bears win or Eagles loss gives Ben Johnson and company the #2 seed and the Packers in the wild card round. If the Bears lose and the Eagles win, the Bears are the 3 seed and will face the Seahawks, Rams, or 49ers in the AFC. If the Broncos beat the Chargers, they get the #1 seed. A loss and the Broncos will have to hope that the Patriots lose to the Dolphins and the Jags lose to the Titans, giving them the top spot in the conference. 6 of the 7 playoff teams have been decided for the AFC. The Ravens and Steelers face off Sunday night, with the winner taking the AFC North crown in the 4th seed and the loser going home. The Steelers lost a chance to clinch a playoff spot in Week 17 when they lost to the 4-12 Cleveland Browns. The playoffs begin next Saturday with 2 games. There are 3 games on Sunday, January 11th, and Monday Night Football wraps up Wild Card Weekend. I'm Tina Nguyen, and that is a look at your Portillo Sports Minute.
Well, the new year has just begun, and some people may have already given up on their resolutions for 2026. Gary Baumgarten has tips from health experts to help make your resolutions stick.
Starting the new year often means making changes for some people, but sticking to a resolution all year may prove to be too difficult. Some health experts say the best way to achieve goals in the new year is by starting small.
What's really important is to stick to 2 or 3 small, manageable goals.
Sharice Fields, a clinical psychologist at Texas A&M University, says there are a few tools people can use to accomplish their resolutions, starting with making specific or SMART goals.
Rather than saying, I'm going to save money, you need to be a lot more specific. So maybe you would say, I'm going to save $50 a week.
After picking a few small goals to focus on, Fields says they should also be measurable, achievable, and relevant.
So you wouldn't say, I'm going to save $200 a week, because maybe you can't save $200 a week. Maybe you break it down to like $10 a week, because that's something that is achievable for you.
And while many people may be working all year to reach their resolution, Fields says it's important to keep a specific deadline in mind.
Thinking about, like, I am going to save $10 a week for 12 weeks.
No matter what the goal may be, Fields says lapses can happen, but she encourages people to stick with their plan and look for ways to make changes if needed.
The important thing to do is not give up immediately, is to sit down and think about what can I do differently next time and plan a new goal.
Gary Baumgarten, Fox News.
Still to come on Fox Chicago News Saturday, we're continuing to follow the latest developments in the revolving U.S. and Venezuela. Venezuela's president and his wife have arrived in New York after they were captured by the U.S. military overnight. The mixed reaction across the country, plus a local professor weighs in on what it all means.
Wintry cool for one more day, and after that, a huge January warm-up. I'm meteorologist Mark Strell, and I'll have your forecast straight ahead.
At College of
We continue to follow our top story. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and his wife have arrived in New York to face drugs and weapons charges after they were captured earlier today. In a surprise operation by elite U.S. military forces, bombs rained on Venezuela as 150 U.S. aircraft knocked out air defenses. U.S. troops then broke into the presidential compound and took Maduro and his wife into custody in an operation that lasted a little more than 2 hours. Maduro's vice president has been named the new leader, but she also called it a kidnapping. And President Trump says he'll run the country until order is restored. Democratic political leaders here in Illinois continue to express their disapproval of President Trump's actions. In a post on X, Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson posted this statement, which says in part, quote, "The Trump administration's military action in Venezuela violates international law and dangerously escalates the possibility of full-scale war. The illegal actions by the Trump administration have nothing to do with defending the Venezuelan people. They're solely about oil and power." Senator Tammy Duckworth issuing this statement saying Maduro was unquestionably a bad actor, but no president has the authority to unilaterally decide to use force to topple a government, thrusting us and the region into uncertainty without justification, a defined end state, or a real plan for preventing the instability that could come next. And Congressman Raja Krishnamurthy releasing this statement by acting without congressional authorization and publicly asserting U.S. control over another sovereign nation. President Trump is abusing presidential power and undermining the Constitution's separation of powers. President Trump said the United States will take control of Venezuela for an unspecified amount of time to run the country, restore order, and get the oil flowing. But he offered little in the way of details as to how all of that would work, raising concerns about the possibility of a long-term military entrenchment. DePaul history professor Tom Makaitis told us earlier today that the president now essentially owns what happens in Venezuela going forward, saying, if you break it, you buy it.
There still is a working government, a functioning military, and they show no signs of simply capitulating to the United States. So there may be more military action. Beyond that, a government has to be put in place. My guess is they will probably try to use the person who was elected in the last election, even though they were, the election was stolen from them. I look for an effort to grab control of Venezuela's oil reserves, which I think is a large part of what this is about. Our allies in the region are quite upset at this unilateral kind of action. And my larger worry is, how do we look Vladimir Putin in the eye and say, you can't invade another country and remove the leader just because you don't like him? Or what is to stop China now from using the same logic in Taiwan, especially since we've moved military assets out of the Pacific or from out of other areas and deployed them in the Caribbean where we really don't need them. So I think this is going to be a destabilizing factor across the globe.
And across the United States, reaction to Maduro's capture appears to be mixed. Libertad, 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 libertad. Some Venezuelans in Florida came out to celebrate Maduro's capture. They were heard chanting Libertad, which is Spanish for freedom. People there praising President Trump for his decisive action. A different story, though, in New York City. Protesters marching through Manhattan carrying a large banner reading, "No War on Venezuela." And a similar scene in Atlanta. People there taking to the streets holding signs reading, "No blood for oil" and "Stop bombing Venezuela now." Stay with us for the latest on the capture of Venezuela's president and the continuing U.S. action there. When we're not on the air, you can find the most up-to-date information on our website. That's fox32chicago.com, also on the Fox local app. All right, let's talk a little bit about the weather now. Take a look. A little bit of, looks like a little fog hanging there in the sky.
We've got some clouds over Chicago right now. Yeah, what you're seeing are some low clouds reflecting back the light from the city.
I'm encouraged, though, by that 40 or 50 you're talking about.
You know what? On so many different levels. I mean, first of all, it's going to be a nice little break from winter, a nice January thaw, and you won't have to pay the utility bills. It'll be so high.
Because they already were. I got the gas bill for the last month and a half. Yeah, it was rough.
So you get a little bit of a break coming up, at least for the next week or so. so. Well, temperatures coming up tomorrow look a lot like today's. We'll be back up into the lower 30s tomorrow. Today we were largely in the upper 20s to around 30 degrees. And it is actually on Monday when we really start to crank things up. Average for this time of year, 33. Today we were sub-average. We hit 26 degrees for our daytime high. And again, very little, if any, sunshine around the area. Right now we're at 25 degrees, winds out of the west-northwest at 5. And that's kind of the redeeming value that we have in the forecast tonight and tomorrow. Winds will be very light. So wind chills, while they are showing up, they're not that bitter, brutal cold with, that we could see with a 20 or 30 mile per hour wind and identical temperatures. Well, our temps right now, 23 degrees up the lake. It's 23 degrees at Woodstock, 26 along the lakeshore, 27 in the Heights, 30 now in Kankakee. And wind chills, again, does drop a number of temperatures down into the teens and 20s, but again, not brutally cold because the winds are about 4, 5, 6 miles per hour. Little bit of light snowfall through the eastern and central Great Lakes. Not much happening right here in Chicago. We've got 32 degrees on your Sunday, 44 on Monday as the warm-up commences and continues all the way through the rest of the week. As you can see, Futurecast, pretty quiet here for us. We'll see some sunshine coming up later. More in a moment.
Thank you, Mark. Now to the south suburbs. Police released new body camera footage from a car crash that happened hours before a man from Blue Island disappeared over a month ago. His family told Fox Chicago's Leslie Moreno that they believe this video you're about to see might help explain what happened.
Family says that body camera footage was difficult to watch, but they believe it reinforces their belief that he may have suffered some sort of medical emergency, possibly a stroke. It's been more than a month since 59-year-old Daniel Davis vanished from Blue Island. Newly released body camera video shows Davis stepping out of a Cook County Sheriff's vehicle on November 25th. As he walks towards a curb, he appears to stumble.
He was quick to respond. He was even being funny and witty at some points. He was very coherent, but there were some little things that his family noticed watching it that weren't right.
Family says Davis was in a car crash the morning he disappeared. A sheriff's deputy picked him up from the scene of the crash and drove him to Bourbon Street where he works. After reviewing the footage, family says there are clear signs that point to a medical emergency.
We can tell that the left side of his body is a little bit impaired because at another point in the video, there's, he points to something and his hand isn't fully, his hand is a little, kind of limp with his left hand. So, and it's the left side of his face a little bit that's slightly droopy in some clips. So there's a lot of little signs that, again, are just subtle enough to look over if the officer doesn't know what his baseline is. They don't know who he is.
Davis was reported missing on November 25th. He was seen on November 26th along Union Road walking through alleys and backyards. The Blue Island Fire Department has conducted water searches while family and friends have organized some of their own both online and on the ground. This weekend, at the request of the Chicago Police Department, Code 3 Search and Rescue from Ohio was deployed to assist with the search.
There are some things he had on him, and so our ground search teams will be looking for those items or just any clue that he was in the area. We're just looking for anything that shows a sign of him to give us that kind of next location to look in.
Family is looking ahead to what they hope will be a turning point.
The help of the community has been carrying us through this, and we cannot be anywhere where we are right now without the public's help, without, everyone's help.
Search efforts began Friday morning and will continue through Sunday evening. Search crews will focus mostly on bodies of water as well as wooded areas. Family is hopeful something will come out of this weekend search. In Blue Island, Les Moreno, Fox, Chicago.
It's a fact of life these days that no matter where you go, you're probably on camera. Coming up, the fun side of all that video as we bring you some of the more interesting moments caught on camera in 2025.
At Postman Law, we build
Year after year, people get caught on camera doing good things, bad things, or just funny things. And 2025 was no exception. CB Cotton shows us all the craziest moments caught on camera.
Caught in the act. And caught just in time. 2025 brought us some head-turning moments, and cameras captured them all.
Are you going to get me in jail?
No, I'm not going to put you in jail. Like this 5-year-old boy who worried about getting arrested after taking a solo trip for some Chick-fil-A. Or a 17-pound dog who spent months on the run before returning to his adopted family.
There he goes.
Bears were caught trespassing and playing ding-dong ditch, while a wild turkey caused a scene when it broke into a pharmacy, and a massive crocodile stopped people in their tracks as it crawled across the street. But slow and steady did not win the race for this suspected drug dealer who tried escaping from police on a scooter.
White male covered in mud and underwear.
A Colorado man led officers on a foot chase in just his Speedo, while in Los Angeles, a suspect tried robbing a donut shop disguised in a bikini and sun hat.
Oh, it's here.
Mother Nature was captured spinning tornadoes, whipping up dust storms, and sparking lightning strikes, while fiery space debris lit up the night sky. Stop. And Houston had a problem when Beyoncé's flying car prop malfunctioned during her concert. From Texas to the Vegas Strip, where hotel and casino teams competed for gold in the housekeeping Olympics. But in New York, only one person took home the top prize at a pigeon impersonation pageant. This police officer also showed off his best moves when he responded to a noise complaint. First responders came to the rescue of this hiker stuck clinging to the side of a cliff, and a child who got stuck after climbing into a claw machine.
I was just asking if you could time my time for me.
Officers also stepped up to help this young man who wanted to make a good impression at his first job interview. With artificial intelligence now dominating social media, events that appear to be caught on camera will need to be watched with a closer eye in 2026. In New York, CB Cotton, Fox News.
Coming up on Fox Chicago News Saturday, we've had seasonable temperatures tonight, but soon we're in for a pretty big warm-up. Mark is tracking that and much more in his full forecast just ahead.
I'm Tino in next in sports. Even after taking the North, the Bears still have a lot to play for. Playoff positioning, payback, and some history for their QB1. We'll hear from the Bears Blitz crew coming up. And last night, Manis Buzelas with an early candidate for best dunk of 2026. How would he follow it up tonight? Stay with us.
Are you struggling with
Well, if you look outside, you'll see that tonight we had the first full moon of 2026, and the Indiana Parks Department had a special hike to get people out into nature. Our photojournalist Jacob Karb takes us to the dunes.
Good evening, everybody. Hi. Welcome to our full moon hike, our first one of 2026. How many of you are ready to go on a hike?
We are actually here for our full moon hike tonight. We do several a year. What a good way to kick off January, the 2026, with a full moon hike. Our hike tonight starts at 5. The start time depends on whether or not, is it the middle of summer and the sun isn't going to set until almost 9 o'clock, right? We're going to start with an auditorium program, and we're going to talk about the moon and the phases of the moon.
Good, you're all holding your moons up?
And then we all bundle up and head out on one of our trails. Typically, we have a nice constellation talk. Tonight, I don't know. We'll have to see whether or not the clouds are going to cooperate, but we're still going to hike anyway. I think it's a really unique experience to hike in the dark. Not a lot of people do that. This gives folks an opportunity to hike in a group. So it's a unique experience, and I think it feels like an adventure for people.
Now, that looks like a lot of fun, although, Mark, I'm not so sure how much of the moon they actually saw tonight.
Yeah, probably not much, because we are overcast tonight. But, coming up in a couple of hours, we should clear skies off a little bit. And when that happens, our temperatures, which are now primarily in the 20s, will drop back down into the teens. A little gentle breeze right now, good enough to put wind chills in the teens across areas north and west of Chicago. And we're primarily in the lower 20s elsewhere. We've had a little bit of light snowfall up to our north. We miss out on that virtually completely. A little bit of light snowfall across Michigan and then back eastward towards most of the Great Lakes. The jet stream tonight has allowed some cooler air in over the weekend. In fact, about normal conditions coming up for tomorrow, and certainly that's what we had today. Temperatures pretty close to normal. But watch what happens as the jet stream sweeps down to the south and to the southwest, pulls some milder air and then hurls it right here into Chicago over the next several days, really all week long, Monday through Friday. We should have daytime highs like this in the middle and upper 40s. So pretty outrageously warm conditions when, on average, our normal daytime high temperature is about what we're going to do tomorrow, around 32 degrees. Now, we're not going to see a whole lot of sunshine coming our way. There's going to be a fair amount of cloud cover. From time to time, we'll have some breaks and some time periods during the day where we'll see some sunshine. But tonight, clearing skies overnight tonight, and some clouds materialize again second half of the day. There's a weak little disturbance which pushes through that could bring us a little wintry mix right along the Wisconsin state line tomorrow late in the day, and that's only for a portion of the area, mostly northern Lake and McHenry counties. I think most of the rest of us miss out on that. And even there, we're only talking about a 15 to 20% chance. So things are pretty quiet otherwise as warm air continues to push up across the region. Well, tonight we're back down to around 19 degrees, especially as our skies do go to clear later on this evening. Winds out of the northwest at around 5 miles per hour. For tomorrow, temperatures up to 32. Winds continue very light at around 5 miles per hour. And tomorrow night, more of the same. We're back down in the teens and 20s before we warm up to 44 degrees on Monday. Tuesday, we hit 45 degrees on Wednesday. Then as we go into Thursday, there's a chance of some rainfall. Chance of rain Thursday night and into Friday. Right now, about a 40% chance of rain. But look at these daytime highs, 49 degrees on Friday. And even on Saturday, with a chance of some snow finally into the mix there, we're seeing daytime highs back up to around 39 degrees. So those temperatures remaining above average all the way through the 7-day forecast. Not always do you see that one of the first weeks of January. So we've got that going for us.
How do you view just like what's still ahead of you, the 2 or the 3 seed, and how decisions that you'll make, like how do you weigh the importance of seeding in this game?
Yeah, we're playing to win this week.
I think anytime you lose, you want to get back on track. You want to get back on a winning streak and things like that. And that'd be great for us to, get that going.
All these games are must-win games, obviously. We've been honing in towards this. The goal was to be playing our best ball around this time.
The most important thing is winning ball games and heading into the playoffs with some momentum and some good energy.
November, December football, going into January, that's when we need to be at our best. And I trust that our guys are going to be.
Well, the Bears are about to face a Lions team that handed them a 31-point loss in Week 2. The Bears have a chance to prove how different they are now and how much that loss lingers. Here's the Bears Blitz crew with more.
You look at this Bears team, though, and they are so different from where they were at the beginning of the season. And Ben Johnson's words came to fruition, playing their best football right now in January.
It's amazing to think that 110 days ago, all right, so almost
a long time ago, when you put it that way.
4 months ago.
I'm going to trust your math on that, by the way.
Take my word
Brought out his
for it.
calculator.
All right, the Bears got absolutely blown out in Detroit, and all I can remember is Amon-Ra St. Brown running his mouth, dancing on the football field. My opinion, no one took that loss harder than Ben Johnson. He felt it in the heart, to the core, and in the back of his mind, he said to himself, we'll be back at the end of the year.
I see a real benefit in still having something to play for Chicago, because there's other teams around the league that are going to try to decide whether or not they are still going full bore to win the regular season finale if they already have a sense for what their playoff future holds, and maybe facing an opponent who isn't as concerned with their playoff fate. But the Bears still having seeding on the line, I think that matters, because I want this team to be as sharp as they can be going into postseason.
So Ben Johnson does not care if he hits 4,000 passing yards. He doesn't care what Chicago thinks either, but I really don't buy it. Do you think deep down they're going to try and get it?
Absolutely. This is the same man who took his shirt off so we could all eat free hot dogs.
He's a man of the people.
100%. And it means a lot to his quarterback, Caleb Williams. I've been a lifelong Bears fan. Yeah, I want to see it in my lifetime.
Ben Johnson is very likely confident. There's going to be a number of seasons where he and Caleb Williams combine to have Caleb be a quarterback who throws for 4,000 or more. Whether or not it happens this week, the Bears winning a game, the Bears playing well, you're coming off of the best passing effort the Bears have had this season, Caleb throwing for 330. So I do believe Ben Johnson wants to keep that rolling. Caleb Williams looks to continue to build off of that. But whether it's 398 or 4,002, I don't think they're going to lose a lot of sleep over it. But will it be a nice thing if and perhaps when it happens? Yes.
Will the city of Chicago lose sleep if he is 2 yards short of that? I feel like they're going to be like, they could still be cursed in their minds.
He can break the Bears' passing record without hitting 4,000. So that could still be a very good milestone.
I think that's 108 yards he needs.
Right.
Let me tell you, if he doesn't break Kramer's record, we're in trouble then.
That'll be disappointing.
All right, thanks, guys. Well, join us tomorrow morning at 9:30 on here, Fox Chicago, for Bears Game Day Live. Luke Canellis, Anthony Herron, Cassie Carlson, and I will have you covered for 90 minutes leading up to Fox NFL Sunday. Kickoff between the Bears and Lions is at 3:25. And after the game, head on over to our digital and social platforms for After the Whistle. I'll be joined by former Bears QB Jim Miller and ESPN Radio's Pat the Designer to break down the game and look ahead to the playoffs.
We got numbers again, 2-on-1. Buzelis flies! If you're going to try, you better try hard. Bonus Buzelis. Oh, my goodness. Oh. Woo, he put him on the poster. Where's my poster machine? Does anybody know how to post videos to Facebook? Oh, Lord.
You gotta love Stacey King. All right, one day after that, what would Bonus Buzelis do for an encore against the Hornets? Early first quarter, Buzelis cuts to the basket and throws it down. Take another look. This time, he puts Con Knipple on a poster. Buzelis with 17 points and 8 rebounds. Time running out in the first. Off the miss here. Bulls get it back, and Ayo Dosunmu with the double clutch heave from half court to beat the buzzer. Ayo finished with 16 off the bench. Hornets went on a 26-4 run in the third quarter. Miles Bridges spots up for 3 here. And then moments later in transition, Bridges with a deep 3 there. Bridges with a game-high 26 points. Bulls lose 112-99. All right, college basketball, number 20 Illinois at Penn State. Second half, Illini up 12. David Mirkovich with the steal here. 3-on-1. Zvonimir Ivasic with the slam. Illinois wins 73-65. They improved to 11-3 on the season. NHL Blackhawks and Capitals game would go to a shootout, 6-round sudden death. Nick Foligno wrist one past Logan Thompson and wins it for the Hawks. Blackhawks win 3-2. They've won 2 straight for the first time since mid-November. Dane, that's a look at sports. Back to you.
All right, thanks. We'll be back right after this break.
Are you struggling with pain, swelling?
A special celebration for the Chinese American community here. They hosted a kickoff event in Oak Brook Terrace to usher in the Year of the Horse. There was singing and dancing, as you see. Now, the Year of the Horse in Chinese zodiac is known for energy, passion, and action. People born in the Year of the Horse are often seen as energetic, independent, and ambitious. Energetic, independent, ambitious. Describes both of us, yeah. I'm sure, right?
I guess I'm a Clydesdale.
Well, then I'll have a beer.
That sounds pretty good, actually. Here's what's going on tonight. We do have clouds at the moment, but we should clear off, and that will allow our temperatures to drop down to the teens tonight. We're back up to around 32, which is our normal daytime high temperature for this time of year. And after that, there ain't nothing normal about the rest of the week.
Yeah, look at those warm temperatures.
We're just like off the hook warm here, with temperatures flirting with 50 by the end of the week.
All right, thanks, Mark, and thank you for watching Fox 32 News Saturday. Good day, remember, starts tomorrow at 7 a.m. And now you can stream Fox 32 Chicago on your smart TV with Fox Local. Search for Fox Local at the streaming platforms you see there on your screen. Download and watch today, and have a great rest of your Saturday night.
Happy New Year, everyone, and welcome into Bears Blitz, brought to you by IGS Energy. Luke Canellis, Anthony Herron, I'm Cassie Carlson. We have reached Week 18. It is the end of the regular